Today I'm going to be making a sand mine billet. I'll start by cleaning up all the steel and getting it all to the right size before welding it up and getting it ready for the forge weld.
For this sand mine billet, I'm using this ancient wagon tire wrought iron and an 80 CRV2 core. Wrought iron is a very soft material and it has a grain to it. The grain follows the shape of the wheel, and when you're drawing it out, you have to draw it out the same way as the grain, otherwise it'll tear apart.
Now that the pieces have been cut out to size, I have to grind them, make sure all that rust is off, and make sure they're nice and flat for the forge welding. Now that the middle's all cleaned off, so it can forge weld nice, can start laying it up for the weld, but first I have to do the other one. Pretty long process just for cleaning up a little piece of wrought iron.
Once all the pieces are cut out and cleaned off, tack weld the front and back of the billet and weld something easy to hold with the tongs. The welds don't have to be great, they just have to hold. Now that it's all welded together, soak it in quenching oil or kerosene for a few minutes to prevent oxidization in between the layers for the first forge weld. I use quenching oil because that's what I have available. For the first heat, you just want to set the forge weld with a few light presses and then add flux to the sides before putting it back in the forge. I didn't get any clips of adding flux. For these first few welds, you have to make sure it's very hot and that it does not get cold while you're working on it, otherwise there's risk of delamination. Do 3 or 4 heats on the flats to make sure it's fully forge welded before you switch to profiling it on the sides and squaring it up. You want to put more pressure on the back half of the billet on the flats. because the handle and the tongs will draw heat and it'll cool faster than the front of the billet. Here I'm just removing some scale to make sure it doesn't press into the billet. Now I change the dies from the flat dies to the round dies to start drawing the billet out. Now start to draw out the billet. This part you have to be very careful and watch to make sure all your layers are fully forge welded and they're not coming apart. Be extra cautious of the tip of the billet, it's the most likely place to come apart. You want to clean off the scale between each heat so you don't press the scale back into the billet. Here I noticed the layers at the tip were coming apart a little bit, so I put some flux on them and got it really hot and forge welded them back together. This is a 30-ton forging press, but it has a 2-step system, so it only gets the full power after a few seconds of pressing. That's why it changes sound after a few seconds. It would be nice to find a way around that, because it could speed up the process a lot. The dimensions I'm aiming for are 3/16 inch thick and 2 inches wide. Press causes the steel to curve, so after some of the heats I take it to the anvil just to straighten it out before the next heat. Here I'm just brushing the scale off of the billet. Now I'm done with the press, and I'm going to finish the billet the rest of the way with the hand hammer. The rounding dies could use a resurfacing, and they don't leave the nicest finish on the steel. So I'm just going over to even that out and even the thickness of the billet. It'd be really nice to do some of this work on a power hammer, but I haven't gotten much of a chance to try one of those out yet. Now I'm cleaning up the edges of the billet and straightening it out, and doing a final check to make sure all the layers are welded nicely. The billet came out to 14 inches in length.
That was how to make a wrought iron sand-my billet. Here it is. Pretty crazy that it was stretched out all the way to 14 inches from 2 inches here. And in one of the next videos, I'll be making a knife from it. Big surprise. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a good day.